are these people?
Go to my website.
And at that website, there's also merch. So there's a button to pick up an INN t-shirt.
Buy my merch right quick.
Oh, check out that merch. Check it out. Oh, Reese wearing a beanie. Look at that. Oh, he's heating up his dab rig right now. So yes, you can get an INN beanie over at the merch store too. You go to indienewsnow.com, click on the merch store, and you can pick up one for yourself. I did want to cover this story by my friend, the Dissident. And the Dissident, again, is a co-founder of INN. And he's one of the original people that Reef and I turned to with the original idea of having writers write original stories that we then cover on our network that really nobody else is talking about because they're network exclusives, and showcasing those writers and kind of an ecosystem that supports the live streams with original articles. And it hasn't quite worked out that way, although the Dissident has been writing some incredible stuff the last year or so, since he came back from a 2-year break. And he's been really on it this week. So I wanted to bring a few of his articles with some supporting stuff behind it, and talking about that. So one of the big stories that happened last week, and it happened as we were going live, I think, or the day before we went live. I already had the rundown set for the show, but that 31 journalists were murdered in Yemen by Israel. And we know that Israel loves murdering journalists. Israel loves murdering healthcare workers, anyone that could possibly support an infrastructure that might oppose what they're doing in stealing the land and murdering others. So what do they have to do? They have to kill those people. So what the Dissident writes is that during Israel's recent bombing of Yemen's capital, Sana'a, they committed the single most deadly massacre of journalists in history, a story that went completely ignored in mainstream corporate-controlled media. Press TV's Yusuf Ramazani reports that last Wednesday, Israel targeted the Al Yaman and 26 September newspapers based in Sana'a. As Ramazani notes, quote, a total of 58 people were killed in that attack, including 32 journalists and media professionals, making it the single deadliest attack on journalists ever recorded. Among the martyrs were well-known reporters. And here is a list of 30 journalists and media figures killed in the strike. Okay, I'm not going to list all the names, but they're here. And it's a damn shame that they were all murdered. Journalism is not a crime. Journalism should not be a death sentence. All right. As antiwar.com reported. Indie Media Award honoree antiwar.com. Quote, the Yemeni Journalists Union said that it strongly condemns this heinous war crime committed by the brutal Israeli aggression on Wednesday, September 10th, through its direct targeting of the offices of 26 September newspaper and Al Yemen newspaper in the capital. Something else happened on September 10th. Remember that? Another big thing that everybody in our country is distracted with and yelling at each other about still. The Forum of Palestinian Journalists also condemned the massacre, writing, quote, Forum of Palestinian Journalists vehemently condemned the Israeli occupation army's bombing of the headquarters of 2 Yemeni newspapers, which resulted in the death and injury of many journalists and civilians. Yep. That's weird.
We're fucked.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Sean. All right. The press release noted that the forum connected the bombing of the Yemeni press with the systematic targeting of Palestinian journalists in Gaza, stressing that Israel is implementing a unified policy against Arab media to, quote, erase the truth, or to set the narrative, both. 26 September put out an article saying that they were targeted for reporting on the genocide in Gaza. All right. The paper compared Israel's bombing of Yemen to the genocide in Gaza. Right. The IDF has admitted to striking the newspaper headquarters, accusing them of being, quote, the headquarters of the Houthis propaganda division. the resistance militia group, which has fought against the Israeli genocide in Gaza in solidarity with the Palestinians. They've done more to support Palestinians than just about anyone. Israel's targeting and killing of journalists in Yemen is part of its broader assault on 6 countries. Because along with its bombing of Yemen, this just last week, okay, Israel had bombed Qatar at Doha in a strike targeting Hamas negotiators to stop that ceasefire agreement possibly from happening in Gaza. All right. They continued their genocidal assault on Gaza, killing 150 people and injuring another 540 since Monday. That was again last week. They bombed the Bekaa and Hermel districts in eastern Lebanon and carried out another drone strike near Beirut in violation of their ceasefire agreement with Hezbollah. Because ceasefire just means that you stop, not that Israel has to. They bombed several sites in Syria, including a Syrian Air Force base in Homs and a military barracks near Latakia in order to weaken the Syrian military and expand territory further into the Israeli occupied Golan Heights. And they also bombed...
And now, international news from Al Jazeera.
Car bombing in Syria, yeah. 37 people killed, ooh, the people are dead.
I wish that wasn't like more the reality than Al Jazeera just declared. But they also bombed the flotilla ship. You're still muted, I think, by the way.
You're muted.
Bombed the global Samud flotilla's ship while docked in Tunisia, which was another act of war on Tunisia. It also was an act of war on the United Kingdom, technically, because there was a British flagged ship that was attacked. This doesn't even include Israel's raid and mass detention of thousands of Palestinian civilians in the West Bank. Yes, I speak it.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Sorry, I do. I say the same to me all the time.
Along with the 270 journalists targeted and killed in Gaza by Israel, they now have killed at least 30 journalists in Yemen while carrying out acts of war against 6 countries, all to continue the genocide and ethnic cleansing of Gaza and expand the Greater Israel Project. Fuck Israel.
Yep.
Also, they murdered Reuters journalists in southern Lebanon a while back. So there's the count is just higher than anyone's ever attacked journalists.
Yep.
And again, Jason Hickel confirming absolutely wild that Israel targeted and massacred 31 journalists and media staff in Yemen. Second deadliest attack on journalists ever recorded. Not the deadliest, but apparently the second. And the Israel regime is built on war crimes. Totally agree. Another article from the Dissident this week, last Sunday, but thankfully this one did not come to pass. Marco Rubio was talking about and threatening to revoke the passports of Americans critical of Israel. That certainly made me sit up and take notice. Because now you're including me. And fuck you for that, little narco. So apparently that provision in whatever bill that was included to potentially give the Secretary of State the power to do that has been voted down. Thankfully. But I wanted to point out that in real time, while this was happening, the dissidents calling it out, letting people know about it so that action can be taken, protests and, people can be alerted to what's happening so it can be stopped before it becomes law instead of just a proposed bill. So thank you to him for letting people know about that. And again, he's taking this from a couple of different places there. The Intercept, we don't really like the Intercept, but they're fed stuff. And sometimes they have, they're the people that break the news. All right. Then you have who's behind this bill. What a shock. It's Brian Mast and AIPAC. Right? The biggest funders behind it. Trident Capital, Carlyle Group. We talked about the Carlyle Group before. Right. Times of Israel has described him as a zealous pro-Israel Republican who's volunteered with a group that assists the Israeli army. That's the dude with the fake legs, like Lieutenant Dan. This cat, this piece of shit, wearing his IDF uniform in the halls of Congress. He should be arrested. All right. He's garbage. We've talked about him plenty. I don't want to give him any platform. But he's the person introducing that.
Oh, hi. Thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Yeah. But what he wants to do is point out lessons from the UK. Look at how Rubio and the Trump admin will weaponize anti-terror legislation to crack down on critics of Israel. One only has to look to the UK as an example with their terrorism act. How they've been persecuting journalists and activists and grandmothers and people on disability for saying that they support Palestine action and that they oppose genocide. Insane, right? But that's what's happening. So the UK Terrorism Act, as Dissident is pointing out, makes it a criminal offense to say anything supportive of a, quote, proscribed terrorist organization, unquote, something that's repeatedly been weaponized by UK's authorities against critics of Israel, because they have deemed Hamas to be a proscribed terrorist organization. They've deemed Palestine Action to be a proscribed terrorist organization. Palestine Action has since disbanded, but apparently that doesn't make a difference if you support them. Supporting a non-existent organization is now deeming you a terrorist. In August of last year, British journalist Richard Medhurst, which we've covered extensively on this show, was arrested at London's Heathrow Airport for expressing an opinion or belief that is supportive of a proscribed organization over his reporting of critical of Israel's genocide in Gaza and overall of Israeli and Western wars in the Middle East. All right? And
right away.
He just goes through some of the people. So there's Sarah Wilkinson and Asa Winstanley. I think we've literally talked about all these folks. Palestine Action being proscribed as a terrorist group, right? And then you've got Francesca Albanese, which they literally put sanctions against her, which is insane.
Terror, terrorism, terror, terrorist, terror organization, terrorist attacks, terrorism, terrorist network, terrorist attacks, terrorist group, terrorist.
Yeah.
Dude, I could just go forever with that.
Recapping all the people that were arrested for protesting. Here's the one where 466 people were arrested. Again, we've covered that extensively on this show, and it's nice to see this kind of recapped in a nice summary article. So if you want to tell somebody what's been happening in the UK, that's a great summary right there to be able to send, number one, about what happened there and how they're now trying to accomplish the same thing here. Then we've got another story that he wrote as headlines keep breaking and news continues to trickle out as the IDF soldiers continue to speak out. More IDF soldiers now say that they were ordered to commit war crimes and kill children, which we know, but now it's really coming out in their own newspapers, and they're not able to hide it even amongst their own citizens. Some of their citizens are encouraging it, but there are quite a few that still are against them murdering children. Thankfully, my God, look at how low we've set the bar when baby murder is too much to ask for some people, not murdering babies with American weapons. Okay. So again, in a new Haaretz article, that's an Israeli newspaper, multiple IDF soldiers admit to killing children. Sure they did. But in Hebrew, the Hebrew edition of Israeli newspaper Haaretz just published an article about IDF soldiers getting PTSD from Gaza, but the article contains several admissions from IDF soldiers of killing children and committing war crimes, which were supported and encouraged by commanders. This all needs to go into the Nuremberg 2.0 tribunals. all of this. They are literally admitting it. This is testimony that needs to be heard and eventually used against these soldiers and the people who commanded them. Following orders was not anything that was acceptable at Nuremberg, and all of these people should swing.
Modern problems require modern solutions.
Or not so modern solutions. One IDF soldier who went by the pseudonym Yoni in the article admits to opening fire on children, saying that an IDF soldier yelled, "Terrorists, terrorists," with him saying, "We go into a frenzy," and I immediately go up with the Negev, a kind of machine gun, and start spraying, firing hundreds of bullets. Then we rushed forward. Then I realized it was a mistake, he notes. There was no terrorists there. He said, I saw bodies of children, maybe 8 or 10. I have no idea. It was all blood, full signs of gunfire. I knew it was all about me, that I had done it. Yeah, because they were all unarmed. They were children. You murdered them. Yoni went on to say to his IDF commander that his IDF commander supported the massacre of children, saying, after a few minutes, the company commander came and said coldly, as if he wasn't a human being, they entered an extermination zone. It's their fault. That's how it is in war. Another IDF soldier named in the Nahal Brigade admitted that he was repeatedly given the command to open fire on starving civilians and the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation aid sites, saying that, quote, his and his friends' day starts at 3:30 a.m., accompanied by drones and armored forces. They set up a sniper position and wait. And then between 7:30 and 8:30 a.m., the trucks arrived and began unloading their contents. And in the meantime, the residents are trying to move forward to take a good place in the queue, but there's a border in front of them, and they don't notice. That's that fence that had them all penned in like cattle. We showed that picture, and that's on a thumbnail that was in the intro. The paper quoted him saying,
I'm sure Israel will just give them shock collars next week, and anyone who gets close to the fucking fence just gets automatically exploded. You know?
Like Scanners, or what was that? Wasn't that the movie Scanners?
Sure.
Had a collar like
Pick
that?
a sci-fi movie. Yeah, a little bomb collar on the outside, something like that. I mean, at this point, how is it not a fucking sci-fi dystopian prison?
Again, the paper quoted this murdering war criminal saying that a line that if they cross, I can shoot them. It's like a game of cat and mouse. They try to come from a different way each time, and I'm there with the sniper rifle, and the officers are shouting at me, get off, get off. I shoot 50 to 60 bullets every day. I stopped counting X's. I have no idea how many I killed. A lot. Children, quote unquote. The IDF sniper testified that his commander ordered him to shoot at children waiting at aid sites, saying the battalion commander would scream on the radio, why don't you take it off? They're advancing toward us. It's dangerous. They're standing there with fucking machine guns, and unarmed babies, children, is what's dangerous. The feeling is that we're being put in an impossible situation, and no one prepared us for it. The officers don't care about children dying. They don't care about what it does to my soul. As far as they're concerned, I'm just another tool. Yes, that's absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
This is just one of many examples of IOF soldiers saying that they were ordered to fire at civilians at the aid sites, which we've been reporting since they set up the aid distribution sites, which were actually just turkey shoots to murder civilians, and let it be the literal fucking Hunger Games, which you can see in a INN news clip on the INN channel called Hunger Games that Reef and Colin covered a couple weeks ago. Here's more. 2 IDF soldiers telling Haaretz in a separate article, quote, it's a killing field where I was stationed. Between 1 and 5 people were killed every day. They're treated like a hostile force. No crowd control measures, no tear gas, just live fire with everything imaginable. Heavy machine guns, grenade launchers, mortars. Then, once the center opens, the shooting stops. They know they can approach. Our form of communication is gunfire. Wow. And another one said that they were at a similar event.
People. We kill people because they're pests.
From what we heard, more than 10 people were killed there. When we asked why they opened fire, they were told it was an order from above, and the civilians had posed a threat to the troops. I can say with certainty that the people were not close to the forces and did not endanger them. It was pointless. They were just killed for nothing. We keep seeing this testimony over and over and over again. Now, from the IDF soldiers, on top of from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation whistleblowers like Anthony, what's his name? Begins with a T. I can't remember his last name. But he got carried out of a hearing in D.C. last week for protesting against this. Similarly, multiple iOS soldiers have described similar instances of what Yoni described, commanders creating invisible security parameters and then shooting civilians that enter them without telling them. Yeah, red light, green light, Squid Game. That's absolutely right, Steve Gill. All right. One IDF soldier who spoke to Sky News, right, said that, quote, we have a territory that we're in, and the commands are everyone that comes inside needs to die. If they're inside, they're dangerous. You need to kill them, no matter who it is. No matter if they're starving and looking for food.
Anthony Aguilar.
Aguilar, that's his name. Tony Aguilar.
Anthony. He does have the H.
Right. All right. iOS soldier admitted it was pretty much like that. Like pretty much everyone that comes into territory, and it might be a teenager riding his bike. It's just poor people, civilians that don't really have too many choices. But the order was given to shoot everyone on sight that crossed that imaginary line. So again, shout out to the Dissident on this one. This was a hard one to read. And this came out of Haaretz, but it's important that people that don't read the Israeli newspapers understand that this is what the Israeli newspapers are admitting to their own civilian population. All right. The fourth article is one that I found that was in support of the article that I wrote 10 days ago, which was about removing Israel as a recognized nation in the community of nations, and that a new UN investigation concludes finally and officially that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, which we had already talked about. But he points to a new in-depth report
Diplomatic community
from the UN, the Human Rights Council, which found that Israel is responsible for the commission of genocide in Gaza, unquote. The report documented that Israel's committed 4 out of the 5 genocidal acts defined by the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. So, first, the report found that Israel has committed the first genocidal act defined by the 1948 Genocide Convention, killing members of the group that they're targeting. Okay? Then we've got, and there's a ton of documentation of this. And where's the next one? All right. Causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. The report notes that Israel is guilty of violating the causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group clause. It notes that Israel has inflicted environmental destruction in Gaza since October 7th, documenting over 60,000 destroyed structures, 20,000 severely damaged structures, 56,000 plus moderately damaged structures, and over 34,000 possibly damaged structures, for a total of over 170,000 structures, on top of all of the roads and the working hospitals and every university and school, and that they continue to blow them up when they rebuild them or try to rebuild them or create a makeshift version of it. It also noted that toxic remnants of daily explosions released into the environment, including hazardous heat and chemical reactions, pose long-term threats for generations. They're destroying the future, which is their intent. All right. Then the third thing is that they are deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. Again, specific language. All right. That the report documents that Israel has violated the deliberately inflicting the group conditions clause section of the convention. All right. That the report documents the mass destruction of Gaza's civilian infrastructure. All right. The commission reviewed photos and videos showing the widespread destruction of residential complexes and entire neighborhoods in the Gaza Strip, including agricultural lands, public facilities, religious and cultural sites, schools, universities, and hospitals. Many of these locations were damaged or destroyed by airstrikes, as well as tank and artillery shells, let alone the double taps. Some were destroyed by bulldozers or controlled demolitions, rendering those areas uninhabitable by intent. A resident of Gaza City told the commission that the Israeli security forces looted everything from his house, destroyed his cars, then burned the house. Notably, Israeli soldiers have admitted to burning homes in social media posts. They're not ashamed of it. They're quite proud of it. And then we've got published reports of that. Okay. This is a really interesting, in-depth article just laying out all the receipts. Here, also as a result, the report noted that, quote, Palestinians in Gaza were forcibly transferred and forced to live in inhumane conditions, deprived of food, water, proper housing, and essential medical care. Notably, the Israeli security forces had also intentionally destroyed civilian objects that left Palestinians in Gaza without resources indispensable for their survival and heavily reliant on humanitarian aid that was wholly or substantially blocked by Israeli authorities, even though they deny it and gaslight anyone that states this. Then there's another condition where they're imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, certainly by attacking the healthcare system, by not allowing aid in, by not allowing water so that mothers could nourish their babies, by not allowing diapers in, by not allowing sanitary products for women. Yeah, then they also destroyed all the IVF, all the embryos and sperm samples and unfertilized eggs at these IDF IVF
right,
facilities.
Right, the incubation chambers.
Right. All right. Again, this all, and then proving genocidal intent. To conclude, the report establishes genocidal intent from Israeli officials, citing the fact that as early as October 7th, Israeli officials made statements that indicated their intention to destroy Palestinians in Gaza as a group, not Hamas, Palestinians in Gaza, noting that Israeli authorities made many statements that explicitly called for vengeance, destruction, and annihilation. Of course, collective punishment. And somewhere, I'm sure, in this article mentions collective punishment being a war crime. Okay, and going back to Guy Christensen over here, actually, his link tree, if I remember correctly, his link tree has a link so that you can view. Here it is. 500 quotes by Israeli politicians with genocidal intent. So he's got that there for people to look at as well. All right. Again, genocide. Unquestionably. Fuck Israel. And fuck Israel and anyone supporting them for denying this and trying to gaslight people into denying what we see clearly with our eyes. All right. On top of the fact that they can't even count how many people they've murdered because they're buried under rubble and they had buildings collapse on them. And the Gaza Health Ministry has been destroyed. So the list of families and people hasn't been updated. They can't possibly know. There's people that are missing all over the place. That was the idea, to scatter everybody and eliminate all the records, which is also part of genocidal intent. Destruction of cultural, religious, and educational structures and facilities, siege, starvation, and the blocking of humanitarian aid, targeting of the healthcare system, sexual and gender-based violence. Let's not forget about the raping of Palestinian women and men in Israeli prisons that's been happening, and direct targeting of children. All right. And that's just some of their war crimes that they've gleefully admitted to and put out on tape, including on TikTok, which is one of the reasons why the U.S. government wants to control it on behalf of the Israeli government. Orders have been given. Okay. All right. So, yes, that Bibi Netanyahu decided to say that this is preposterous propaganda by the left. No, it's not. It's documented reality. It's what we've been talking about and showing on this show for 2 years. You know, and this week, we're coming up 2 weeks from now on 2 years since the October 7th prison break. And again, go back to my article about why Israel should not be allowed to exist as a country at this point, that talked about why I believe October 7th was a prison break, because these people have been held prisoner. And that wall was abandoned, allegedly, for a period of hours. It was the most monitored wall in human history, but they just happened to take all of the watch off of it for hours while this was happening? Huh. How about that? How about that? Right? They bulldozed Rachel Corrie. That's right, all one same. May she rest in power. All right? They don't give a fuck. They killed Antinur Egi, which again, Reef and Colin covered on INN News. That's a Turkish American.
Yep.
They murdered a Palestinian American boy, a teenager from Patterson, New Jersey. And media didn't say shit. Cory Booker didn't say shit. Right? And all of these people need to be brought up on charges, need to be brought up on trial for their support of genocide. And the UN needs to take whatever steps to decertify Israel as a country. That's really what I believe needs to happen here. Now, because of that, we're certainly not going to be remonetized. I was going to ask people that if you're able to and have means, please support the stream. Okay. The ways to do that are a Cash App, $ Indie News Network, at ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. You got paypal.me/Indie News Network. Got IndieNewsNow.com. We're actually live over there now. We still host over there. We self-host. And then we've got the Substacks, INNnewsletter.com, where we're going to be live later on tonight for boats smashing into other boats. And we're live right now at IndieMediaToday.com, where actually you see the newest name on the board. Darren Sweeney became a paid annual subscriber over at IndieMediaToday.com today. So thank you, Darren. I was able to get that up on the slide before we went live. And we really appreciate all the support to help us fund the media you want to see, pay our bills. We just got hit with a Canva bill last week. That was close to $300. We've got the Restream bill for almost $700 coming up later on this year. Zoom bill. And then there's the monthly subscriptions that we have. And again, this is what we need to do to be able to create content and make good shows. And, you know, Reef and Colin had a theme song made earlier, an all new look and creative. And that cost us a little bit. And we're helping Angel fund a laptop. And we also, hopefully, once we get that all paid, I'd like to do some mutual aid in the fourth quarter of this year. Mm-hmm. That would be really nice to be able to do. Love you all. Thank you for hanging out. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. We'll see you soon, fam. No! We just fucking lost the stream!
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way.
I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison.